All right, thank you. Good afternoon to all of you. And today we will be starting Unit 27, Module 3, Managing the Teaching and Learning Process. So it's practically dealing mostly with the way we teach in the classroom. Language is involved in it, students' language, teachers' language. All right, so mostly we will be talking about it. Let me share the screen. So here you see Module 3, Managing the Teaching and Learning Process, Part 1, Teachers and Learners' Language in the Classroom. So they will be testing you in it, like different things which we talk about. They have particular names, terms are there. And what we do in it, so you will be tested for that what is it? Like modeling, okay, eliciting, counseling, all these, so different definitions are there. You need to make notes of it, that different things which we say in the during our teaching, what is it called? What's the name of it? That's how they will be testing you in it. How do we use language appropriately for classroom functions? Classroom functions are the purpose for which we use language in the classroom. These functions are many and varied. For example, explaining, instructing. Now, for example, when we say explaining, what we do in it, and they will practically, we will go through the dialogues and we'll see when we do instructing, what's the difference in it makes with this explaining. For each classroom function, there are different exponents we can use. Sentences, the words which we say for different function. Remind yourself the topic of what's that? Function, unit 4, we discuss about the exponents. The choice of exponent depends on the learning context and purpose. Now we use different exponent to express our thoughts, and that depends on the context, the situation, and the purpose of it. And accordingly, learner needs also we have discussed. What is needed for the student? Different students have different needs. So according to that context, purpose, learner's needs, okay, then comes their age, because the same topic, one topic you are teaching to the primary, it's in a different way, then the lower secondary, then the higher secondary, then after the school, and to the adults. Right, and level of the language. There might be sometime adults, but their level of English might be basic. So you have to teach the topic in a very basic way. So it depends. There might be secondary students whose level is upper intermediate, or sometime might be touching the advanced. So it depends, and you need to know what's their language level, what's their age, why they want to learn language. So what type of situation and context is there? So all these things keeping in mind, then we use different language to express our thoughts. When we choose language that is right for the situation and our audience, we say that we use language appropriately. Whenever we use language and it is suitable for our listeners, audience, and about the language which we have chosen. For example, it's a situation is formal and we talk in the informal way, it would not suit it. So in the formal function, for example, you are delivering a speech, so the language should be more formal in that. In that, if you use informal way of expressing the language, so it will not be suitable. And what we call it, language is not appropriately used. And when we say inappropriate language is used or appropriate language is used. So these terms are when the language according to the situation is suitable. And suitability is formal and informal and neutral way. Right, so the next thing is key concept. Now here you see what are some of more common classroom function of teacher language and their exponent list them. Here is a sample of classroom discourse from a beginner class of young learners. How many of the classroom functions which you listed can you find? Okay. Now, I didn't ask you to make a list, but usually when physical class is there, then we ask from the teachers to make the list. Here you see teachers and student dialogues are there. On the right side, they have given the numbers to each dialogue. So if you can see, teacher says, stand up, Adam, stand up, Eve. Okay. Adam will ask and Eve will answer. Points to dialogue on board. Yes, read these one. Adam, may I borrow your pencil, please? Reads from the board. Eve, here you are. Teacher. Now come on, Eve, look at Adam. Eve is looking fixedly at the board. Adam, thank you. Eve, you are welcome. Turns around and looks shyly at Adam. Teacher, oh, Shona, pause. Oh, Shona and Brenda. So that pause you can observe in this way. Like, oh, Shona and Brenda. Come on, Shona, ask. Shona, may I borrow your pencil, please? Brenda, look at Shona. Teacher says, you are welcome, Brenda. Welcome? Teacher is not satisfied with the pupil's pronunciation. Brenda, welcome. Pupil repeats. Teacher, may I borrow your pencil, please? Brenda, a bit louder. Look at each other when you ask question. Now, this is a discourse of practicing dialogues, which is written on the board, and then the teacher is asking pair of students to come and practice it. And in between, the teacher is taking pauses, instructing in between, okay, and telling them what they're supposed to do. Now we will see on the next page, whatever the teacher has said, all these, it comes in which category, what we call them, okay? You usually, when you do this role play, or dialogue practice that. So you also instruct the students how they have to pronounce the words, how they have to say it, their gesture, right? So now let's look at the sum of function of exponent of teacher language in the sample in detail. Getting learners' attention. Stand up, Adam, stand up, Eve, line 1. The teacher is getting learners' attention at the beginning of a sequence. The teacher wants everyone to listen and wants Adam and Eve to stand up. There are different times in lesson when we need to get the learner's attention. For example, when we close an activity or when we want learners to look at the board, we usually keep these utterances short. And very often teachers develop their own exponent for getting attention with their different classes. Like you people also will have different utterances you are saying to get the attention of the student, to get them focus on the board or all that. So sometimes it's different. Sometimes some of them, they clap, okay, pay attention, look at me. So you might have your own different exponent for getting the attention or asking them to do something. So you might have your own style of saying those things. Next is instructing. Now, instructions, when it's given how they have to do a particular act there. Okay, Adam will ask and Eve will answer. Line 1, that is instruction. Now, this is what they will be testing you. Like when the dialogue is there, teacher says this, it comes under what? Is it instruction? Is it getting learners' attention? Is it modeling or different things? So this is what you need to note it down and see that the dialogues, what particular sentence comes in which category. All right. So read this one, line 2, that is also instruction. Look at Adam, line 5, that's another instruction. Brenda, look at Shona, line 11. Look at each other when you ask question, line 16. All these comes in the instructions. And some you can find out whenever you are giving instruction how it is. So you need to differentiate between these dialogues, which comes into the category of the instructions or category of the getting attention, and likewise some other categories are also coming there. The teacher gives learner instruction throughout the teaching sequence. Before they start, during the activity, the instruction at this point are about non-linguistic behavior. Non-linguistic behavior, what is it? Non-linguistic behavior is that, okay, you stand up, look at Shona, say it loudly. Now, these are not the instruction which are dealing with the language. It is with the behavior. That is why they say non-linguistic behavior. Okay. And at the end as a reminder, the language of instructions often uses the imperative, even with higher level or older learners. Imperative mean commanding. Whenever as you are a teacher, no matter you have elder students or younger, your tone is always, when giving instruction, is commanding tone, imperial. Do this, stand up, look at the board, turn to this page, open it, write this. All these are instruction in the commanding way. That's why they say imperative. Next one is modeling. Modeling, welcome, line 13. May I borrow your pencil, please? Line 15. The teacher models, mean gives a clear example of the target language at 2 points in this teaching sequence. It is important when we model language orally that we say only what we want learners to repeat, as the teacher does here. Now this is the thing you have to note it down. When we model language orally, what is our purpose? That we say only what we want learners to repeat. Okay? As the teacher does here, in the first example, Brenda, the learners repeats the words welcome after the teacher has said it. In the second example, the teacher provides a model of structure for the whole class, but they don't repeat it immediately. In this teaching sequence, the modeling is oral. We also model language in writing. We can guess that there is a written model on the board in this teaching sequence as the teacher says, read this one. So modeling is done 2 ways, orally and written. Written way, we give a sample. Sometimes we give a sample essay, sample letter, and then they keep that example in their mind and they write on the new topic, keeping that layout in their mind. So speaking orally, when we tell them, so we want them to repeat certain sentences or words. Next one is encouraging and instructing. Now, come on, Eve, line 5. Brenda, a bit louder, line 15. Learners are often lacking in confidence and shy about speaking in front of the class. That's a common behavior of the student. We can encourage them by using language which makes them feel positive about what they can do and which reduces their level of anxiety. So we have to encourage them how to reduce their this confidence which they don't have, how to increase it, and the level of anxiety, how to reduce it. We sometimes also have to tell them what to do, instructing. Okay, so encouraging, usually all we teacher we do encouraging, how you can do that, yes, that was good, come on, you can do it. It's not very difficult. Yeah, so different ways, you might have your own ways, depends which student you are talking. For different students you may apply different methods. Nominating. Or Shona and Brenda, line 8. This is just one example of nominating. Nominating means choosing and naming one learner to speak or to do a particular task. In this teaching sequence, we use learners' names for a number of reasons. For example, to get their attention, to make them feel we know who they are, to make sure that different learners answer. So nominating. Next is prompting. Prompting a learner to continue. Come on, Shona, ask. Line 8 and 9. Prompting help learners think of ideas or remember a word or a phrase. What to do or what to do can sometimes be quite similar to encouraging. So prompting, you are giving them sometime, kind of like a little bit clue what they're supposed to do. So then they just remind that in the mind that you are trying to realize them that this is what it is. So it is, they say, it can be sometime like encouraging. It's kind of going with the encouraging. Only the thing is, encouraging comes like before starting that, and this might be when they took a start and they are lacking in something, and then you want them to remind them in their mind and giving some clues and some encouragement. So almost kind of resembling with encouragement. When we prompt, we provide words, phrases, ideas, or even time to help the learners continue or remember what to say. This means we sometimes leave our utterance unfinished for the learners to finish it for us, as in this example. Now, I hope the prompting is clear to you. Madhubhashini?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Sometime half a word we say, we just give one word, one letter we say in that, and then they follow it up quickly. Okay, so different ways we try to remind them what they're supposed to do. There is range of different exponents for each classroom function. The exponents that teacher choose depend on the context, age, and language level of the learners. And the formality and informality of teaching situation. The exponent that teachers use must always be appropriate for the situation. Here are some examples of exponent for eliciting. You can see that some would be more appropriate to use in certain classroom or with certain students rather than others. Yoko, Koyoko, answer please. What's number 4? Can anyone tell me the answer to number 4? Mr. Guliani, would anyone like to try answering number 4? So most of the time, teachers are able to communicate these messages successfully to the learners using the target language, accompanied by gestures where appropriate. However, in some situations, particularly with young learners, with beginners or elementary learners, it may be necessary for the teachers to use the mother tongue or L1 from time to time. This situation includes. Now, usually we say not to use the mother language, but there are situations and there is the age and the level of the student that there you are allowed to use mother language while teaching English language in order to make them understand. Those situations they are giving you here. Problem with discipline, for example, the teacher needs quickly to stop a situation from getting out of control. Now, you're supposed to speak in English, but the children are fighting with each other. Disciplinary thing is there. So there, if you talk in English, they will not take it or understand what you're asking them. So it's better to use mother language at the time. It will be more effective. When you say Karanipa, hey, Mehema Karanipa, then they will understand. But if you talk in English, don't do that, it's not good, this, it may not affect that much. At elementary level, young learners, not adult. So, second, possible injury or danger to learner. For example, the teacher notices that a learner's chair is broken, or maybe you have taken the children out, like in the primary or preschool, and there is a kind of water or there is some kind of slippery place, and the children, you know, they don't bother, they don't have that much understanding, so they play and then they forget about it. That's why they are getting injuries most of the time. So the teacher need to have a look at this. So if that time the teacher is using, when the child is like, you know, playful, and the teacher see that this way the child is running, may stuck with something, or may fall, or may get injured, at that time, to get the quick attention, it's better to talk in Sinhala, mean mother language, whatever it is. Why? Because the child will be careful. English will not affect that much. Why? Because they are not in the right appropriate level of the language. They are not used to that much. So you need to get the attention at that time to make them aware that there is some danger. So to talk in the mother language. Next is looking after learner. For example, a learner is very upset for personal reason. There is a small child not taking it, crying. You might have faced this kind of situation, those who are teaching, especially in the preschool. So sometime in the primary also it happens. So if they are upset for some reasons and you want to console them and you are consoling them in English, it will not be so effective. So you better console them in mother language. Repeating instruction in L1 after they have been given in the target language, for example, with beginner young learners group. Now, instruction you have to give in English, but they may not be following properly. It's better to repeat that in Sinhala or in Tamil as well. Then they will understand and then again come to the English. So why? Because that's the initial stage. They are halfway to the language. So it's better to, when you are instructing, that time is also allowed to talk in, repeat the instruction in mother language. Next one is checking understanding of more abstract vocabulary, for example, with an advanced class. Or if you have advanced class adult and there is kind of a word is there which is abstract, very, confusing, and you cannot make it clear to them in English. So there you can give an example in the mother language to make them understand. Is this clear? That where this area you have to note it down. What are the conditions in which you are supposed to use mother language? They may test you a question about the situations and ask you, right? It's not good idea for teachers to use more L1 in the classroom than is necessary. If they do, learners can become more unwilling to use the target language because they are used to hearing or perhaps using L1. So in the end, they say it's not a good idea to use mother language so often. Only the conditions which they have given in this sort of situation, it's okay if to use. But again, you have to come back to the target language, the second language, or English to talk to them. If you continue with that, the children, they are used to the mother language. It will be difficult for you to bring them towards speaking the English language. And usually when you as a teacher also, when you people are speaking with each other in front of the children, speak in English. So what I have observed some time back, when I was visiting the thing which is, I was an international school as a in the administration, and I was taking care of one area where the primary classes was going on. So whenever I used to go there to see how the things are going on, there, what I found, the teacher, she's talking to the children in English, but when they, with each other they are talking in Sinhala. And the children are around. So now, for example, one of your colleague is in the classroom and you go and meet that. So you are talking to her in Sinhala. Now the children are listening. You know, this gives the impression to them of permission that we are supposed to, because they are talking in Sinhala, so they are also encouraged to speak in Sinhala. So always, what I remember that when I was in college, here in Sri Lanka, you don't have college, but they call school also. Some schools are called colleges. But in our country and in India, we have school, then college, then university. So college is mostly dealing with the A level. So A level is separately than the schools. O level finish, school finish. Then you come to the college, and then you have a little bit freedom of compared to the school student. And then after that university, then you go for the graduation. So that's how in our side it is. So I was in the college, and our English teacher, I had never heard him talking in our language, normal language, always in English. And we were kind of, we were trying to listen to him sometime whether he speaks our local language or not. That much he was taken care of. Why? Because impression of the English teacher, he wanted to give English. So especially the teachers who are in the preschool and the primary, you have to be very careful. If you are talking to each other, you should make sure that the children are not around you. Then you talk in Sinhala, no worries. But whenever you have the children around and you want to talk to your colleagues, please avoid speaking in Sinhala or in Tamil. It gives an impression and a permission to the children, an encouragement to the children that they also speak with each other in Sinhala. So they may talk to you in English, but with each other they will be speaking in Sinhala and Tamil. Why? Because they copy you. What do? They copy that. Right. Where were we? So those are the situations which we have we talk about. That's the only areas where you are permitted. So this also note it down, okay? Examination side, they may ask a question in that way. Now, key concept, language teaching classroom. Exponent use in the classroom must be appropriate for classroom function, for the learning context and purpose. Exponent, the sentences, the dialogues, the words which we use, it should be appropriate for the purpose and the context. That's what we talked before also. for the level and age of the learners. Example of when exponent might be inappropriate are if the language is above the learner's level. Then when we say the exponent is inappropriate, the language is inappropriate. When it is above the level of the students. Now they are at the basic and you are talking in the intermediate or advanced. So that is inappropriate. If the language is above the learner's level, if the language is too informal or direct or might seem impolite, you know, depends whether too informal. You remember the function unit when we were saying, and there was an example that the teacher comes to the class and say, "Hi guys, good morning." Very informal. So that is not appropriate, inappropriate. Likewise, sometime it might be very much too direct. Like example is sit down and get on with your work, spoken to the learners in a business class. So if you have a business class student, definitely they are adults and they might be professionals. And when you say sit down and get on with your work, it's very direct talking to them, instructing. So they should not be given the instruction in that way, right? Next point is language should be graded to suit language level and age of learners. Grading language means choosing exponents that are suitable for the language level of the learners. For example, with beginners, we use simple words and phrases, but with the high level learners, our language can be more complex. Grading means using language at the right level for the learners to understand. Highlight it or underline it. This is called grading when it is suitable for their level to understand it. Okay, so that is called graded language. Next point is language needs to be sequenced appropriately to provide learners with a range of learning opportunities. Sequencing means, this also underlined, using language in a logical order. Sequencing mean stepwise it goes and the student can follow it up easily. This is particularly important for explanation and instruction. Whenever you are explaining something or instructing something, it should be very much logically connected, that they should understand the instructions one by one, stepwise. For example, listen, work, listen, work with a partner, rather than work with a partner, listen. Now you see, we say listen, work with a partner. So it is logically, the words are following, instructions are following appropriately. But when we say work with a partner, listen, so it's not appropriately said. So the order is not correct. That's what they are telling you. We usually give longer sets of instructions to learners in sections as and when they need them. So instructions we give according to the need, whether sometime it need to be short to the point, sometime it may be a bit longer, depends. Right. Learners can learn chunks. Chunks, remind yourself. Chunks, we learn our mother language in chunks. So then you can understand and remind yourself. And we talk about it, that it is like fixed expressions, collocations, and idioms. It consists of that. Just by hearing them again and again, so it is useful to use fixed range of exponent for classroom function at early stages of learning. For example, open your books and look at page. Once learners are familiar with set of exponent, we can extend the range to suit their level. With more advanced learners, we can take the opportunity to expose them to a wide range of language through the function exponent we use. Now, it's a very important point for those who are in the preschool and primary, because that's the time when you are transforming the child to follow up the English language. So what they suggest you here, that you need to make a list of exponent. How to make a list of exponent? Like, for example, when you ask them to open your books and look at page. So this is a fixed exponent which you have to say all the time when you want them to open the book and a particular page. Then they get used to it. Initially, when you say like this, you have to, maybe you need to translate that in Sinhala also. So likewise, you need to have exponent for different functions in the classroom. You want them to stand up, you want them to come ahead, you want them to look at the board. Particular exponent, fix it, write your exponent, and always use the same exponent at initial stage. So what happens when you do not change the language of the instructions every day for one function? Then the children get used to that. They can follow it up easily. When they are familiar with that, then after some time you can introduce that a different way of saying that also. But most probably that is suitable for the advanced learners or higher one. So for the small one, make a list of your different exponent for the functions in the classroom and have that with you. The children will be following up easily. And you can give some exponent to them also when you ask them, what is your name? My name is this. Okay, so they need to practice that. Likewise for different other things also. May I go to washroom? May I go out? Okay, so all these different exponent for different function, you make a list with you and stepwise practice that with your student, especially preschool 1, 2, 3. Right? Choosing which exponent we are going to use for classroom function before the lesson is important. If we do not plan, think about what language to use. We might use the L1 or language which is too complex or too simple, or language which does not respect the learners. So they say when you are starting a lesson, better to select your language, what kind of language you have to use in the to give the instructions to them. Otherwise, if you do not plan it, you may say something which is not appropriate according to the situation. All right. So this is what all about the teacher's language in the classroom. Next topic is the student language in the classroom. So have you understood this? Any question? Right. So there were some important things for you people to note it down as a teacher, and especially if you are in the primary and if you are in the preschool. Okay. So I will stop the class now, and because recording need to be for the separate units, and I will send you the link again for the next unit. Okay.